All right. Well, this is exciting because we're trying to figure out how to trick people to eat vegetables, which is one of my favorite things to do. If you've known me, I've talked a lot about how my mom thinks Skittles count towards fruits, vegetables, and I have to constantly explain that while we say eat the rainbow, we are not talking about Skittles, we are talking about different colors of your fruits and your veggies. Hi. So one of the things, I have a recipe there for everybody. These are really quick and easy veggie pancakes. So basically what we've done is we've gone out to the market, we got beets, we got zucchini, we got squash, some greens, a little garlic. Whatever you have in your house will work. I've made these with cauliflower before, broccoli, all sorts of good stuff. So it doesn't have to be a set ingredient. One of the things I find is that when people start to cook, if they don't have one little thing, it's hard for them to deviate if they're not comfortable with it. And a lot of people who have eaten at my house can tell you that that is not a problem, and sometimes they wish that I would not deviate from what's on the recipe. But that is one of my favorite things to do, is to experiment. Come on in, there are recipes right there for you guys. So basically, all I did was I took some of these veggies and I grated them up. We have some zucchini. Zucchini and squash tend to be higher in moisture content, so when you're putting something like that in a pancake or a bread, sometimes it's good to let them pad out on a paper towel a little bit to get some of that moisture. And I did the same thing with the squash. And then, does anybody ever eat beets? Do we have a lot of beet eaters in here?
Ever used them fresh at all?
Yeah. Usually you get like the canned kind, or you are kind of scared because you don't really know what to do with them. So you can actually eat beets raw, or you can roast them, you can bake them, you can do all sorts of things with them. Sometimes I just wrap them in aluminum foil, pop them in the oven, and then that way you can just rub the skin off. You don't have to cut it off. Actually, I'm surprised my hands are not stained red because when I was grating these, it looked like a massacre in here. But be aware that they will kind of stain stuff, so don't wear white. Put an apron on. But you can do them raw, just like that. That's all I did was grate them here. And then we also have some greens. And one of the things I like to do is show people how I cut up my greens when I'm going to throw it in something like this. Does anybody watch Food Network?
Yep.
Because it's kind of my favorite channel. So what I do, and I learned this from the masters there, anytime you have basil or kale or spinach or anything that's a bigger leaf that you can kind of cut up, I just kind of stack it up and roll it like this, and then you just kind of run your knife through it. I don't mind using the stem in these. There are some things you may not want to, but this should be fine. And then you get more of like little ribbons versus something that's a little hardier. And this also helps break down the texture of those greens too, so if you're not going to cook them first, it makes it a little more appealing to eat in something like this. So then I'm just going to run through this way. Always watch your fingers. And so that's pretty much all the prep we did. We cut up a little garlic. We got that at the market as well. The eggs we're going to use actually came from Grasshopper's distribution, so it's local eggs as well. And then we have some skim milk. If you have 1% or 2%, that's fine. You know, any of this stuff is interchangeable. We're just trying to make it a little healthier today. And I also have white whole wheat flour. So this is a different kind of wheat. But it's still got similar nutrition to something like a whole wheat flour would, with the fiber versus something that is a little more refined like all-purpose flour. If all you have is all-purpose flour, or even if you had cornmeal, that would probably be a good sub in here. It would probably taste pretty good as well, but this is just what we're going to use today. Does anybody have any questions over the veggies or shredding them or any of that good stuff? Alright, this is where the fun begins. This is usually where I get a little messy.
I guess I did have a question.
Yeah.
So you didn't take the skin off of the...
No.
You didn't put the skin off the zucchini and
No.
squash?
The
Okay.
zucchini and the squash have their skin on.
Okay.
The beets I actually just peeled around the edge. Somebody was saying earlier that beets tend to have more of an earthy flavor, and I think sometimes when you leave the skin on, it kind of contributes to that a little bit. But I always peel the beets, and then the other stuff you can just grate without it. And if you have a food processor, it's so much easier to just drop them in and let it do the work for you. I like to do things the hard way, so I brought my old school little grater here, and that's what I used. But it still only took 5 minutes to do it all. It wasn't bad at all. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to take about a cup of our in-season veggies. I'm going to do 2 different types. So I'm going to do a beet and spinach one, and then we'll do a zucchini and a squash one. So I'm just going to eyeball it. I don't really measure anything, which is probably not always a good thing, but you know, in the kitchen you're not always measuring stuff. And this zucchini is a little red from the beets. I also grated them first, which I should have done last, but it gives it a little extra color. Everybody likes pink. Alright. Hi guys, come on in. So next we're just going to take an egg. You can take a whole egg. If you are vegan and you don't use eggs, you could sub in like a flax egg or a chia egg, whatever works. But one of the things I always do is I crack it in a different bowl first. A, because I'm not the world's best cracker, and B, because you don't always know what you're going to get in there. So we're just going to take an egg, pour that in here. We're going to use about a 1/4 cup of our skim milk. Now we'll measure this because I get a little heavy-handed sometimes. Pour that in there. We're going to take about 1/2 cup of our flour here. And you always want to level this off. You don't want any heaping spoonfuls of anything when you're baking something, if you're going to be baking, because then it can dry it out and it can give it a texture that's not really what it was intended to be. And I have a little baking powder here. This helps it rise. So I'm just going to use a little bit of that, about 1/2 teaspoon here. I can get to the bottom. That's a 1/4, another 1/4. And then I'm just going to add salt and pepper. Some people don't like to add salt when they're cooking, but to me, it's one of those things that it enhances some of the flavors. You don't want to go overboard with it. And then we'll just add our garlic to this one. It's been minced up and chopped. Give a little stir. And you don't have to make this, you know, super smooth. A little chunky is okay. Kind of the consistency of like a pancake batter where it might have some lumps in it. That's perfectly fine. And if it's too thick, you can always add a little more liquid to your liking. Got a lot of good color in there, lots of fruits and veggies. And this is what it will look like. So we're just going to repeat that process over again. I'm going to make sure that my little burner here is where it should be. That's the part where you will probably hear maybe some smoke alarms going off. We'll see how it goes. So we're just going to throw our spinach in here, our beets. Now if you like Mexican flavors or whatever, you could throw some cilantro. Sometimes I use chipotle chili powder. Whatever you like, you can really make these kind of what you want them. So that's kind of nice. Has anybody ever made something like this before? Have you ever tasted something like this before? Okay, so if you haven't, you won't know if it's good or not, so that's a win on the board. Alright, so we're just going to do our other 1/2 cup, and this should actually be the whole, because I measured it out beforehand, so that's good. And then we'll do our egg and our milk, and we will go from there. I always secretly hope for a twinner egg in there. They're like anomalies when you get 2 yolks. It's my favorite because I'm a cooking nerd and I can't help it. And then we'll pour the rest of our milk in here. And then we'll we'll just add our little pepper, go from there. Does anybody have kids where you think that this would work as a little trick, or parents who don't eat fruits and vegetables like I do? This is really quick and easy. And this is also something, if you have kids, that they can easily help with. I'm a big fan of getting kids in the kitchen to help them learn about why things are good for you as well. So it's a good activity for everybody. Get that egg incorporated in here. And that is what this one looks like. So now we are going to move back here, and I'm going to work on these and get them cooked up. Everybody keep your fingers crossed here. You can use olive oil, whatever oil you use is fine, or you could use cooking spray. Just a little bit will work. Don't worry, I'm a professional. This happens all the time. And I wish I was joking, but unfortunately I'm not. And then we will just spoon these out. About a tablespoon each. Ooh, that one's really going. And we'll give them just a few minutes on each side until they're cooked through. And these are good. You can make them ahead, you can reheat them. You can keep them in the office, you can keep them at home quite easily. We'll just give those a few minutes. Does anybody have any questions so far? Any comments? Anybody want to come up here and sing a song while we're waiting for this? I could, but you guys have heard me so much today, I feel like that would be overkill. Like I said, we'll just give them a few minutes and then we'll get those plated up, and you guys can either try them both or try one, whatever floats your boat.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the wellness activities at UofL Hospital?
Sure. A lot of this has come about in general just because we tend to do a lot of promotion with the farmers market at UofL, but we also support local food. Some of the stuff we do some real food challenges through email, where we kind of focus on teaching people not only how to eat better, but how to do that with less processed food. And that's one of the things where these local ingredients come into play, because typically your food will travel 1,500 miles to get to you. And in the process, it loses a lot of nutrition, a lot of nutrients, and that can be detrimental when you're trying to eat healthy and you're thinking you're getting in a lot of good stuff. So one of the things we focus on is getting people just more aware of the resources that are out there with real food. And we actually have a program with grasshoppers where we get boxes delivered at the hospital. They work very closely with us to do that, and it's been really cool to see people who wouldn't otherwise think to do that, to get really involved in what types of real foods they can fix. We send out lots of recipes. It's a really neat program, and so we try to work with the farmers market to just kind of not only get that done at the hospital, but just to get general awareness. Sometimes, unfortunately, the easier choices are quick and not the healthiest things, but if you can get stuff like this together, you can do yourself a service by eating better, eating more fruits and vegetables, without always realizing that that's what you're doing. And it can be quick, easy, and relatively painless, unless you're in a cooking demo that I'm doing, and then it might be a little painful, but we'll get through it. It's all good. Now these are cooking a little better than these are, so we will crank the sucker up. The beet ones will probably be done first. We do a lot of cooking type programming at the hospital too, which is really nice. I like to do it, and it gives me a reason to get out of my office a little bit, so I always appreciate the opportunity. So thank you, Melissa, for letting me come do this. how high we can crank this without setting something off.
When I was reading the recipe, it was definitely written, someone trying with their child, and they talked about, which I think is on the picture up there, like using ketchup as a dipping. Did you think about any other sauces that might, or have you ever? Because you cooked these before.
Yeah. I don't usually cook these with sauces, but I'm a big fan of, especially for kids, anything you can dip, or I know green smoothies are really big right now, so anything you can give like a really fun name, like the Green Monster or the Hulk or whatever. I have no idea what kids are into right now. But something that can connect it to what they're doing. And like I said, I think getting them just actively involved in the cooking process too is sometimes really integral part of that. Sure.
And there are some tongs right there for you.
Oh. I might put olive oil on it if I was going to have a sauce with it.
Just a little more.
Just to kind of put it in.
And you could even add like a squeeze of lemon to some of these. It would probably be fine. It would be pretty tasty. You can get creative with it. You could shape these into little hearts for Valentine's Day.
Before you pass those out, can we get a final shot of the? Because I don't think we got to see them.
Oh, sure.
See what you.
Try not to roll.
Can you see?
I think so. Here's your tilting it.
Who are my beet eaters? Okay. Does anybody usually eat beets?
I usually eat them, so I just thought
I've been kind of scared of them. But I'm going to try them.
Here you go.
Super.
Here you go. Thanks.
Yeah. So if nobody has any questions, if you don't like those, keep it to yourself. No, I'm just kidding. But you can see how easy it is to add in whatever you have on hand. This doesn't have to be like a set. If it's not like this, it's perfect. Just really get comfortable with it. One of the other things I will mention is something's on sale, or you can get it cheaper at a farmer's market or local produce. Don't feel like you have to just use this combination. Go ahead and save that money. Use what's local. Use what's seasonal. You could even throw some fruit in here. You could do like a cornmeal and blueberry one with lemon. Oh my gosh, that sounds delicious. As my wheels are turning. But that's stuff that you can really get creative with. So don't be afraid to play with it. And if you guys don't have any questions, that's all I have. Make sure to get a recipe if you like it and you want to try it. Or if you have any questions, I'll stick around until we're done cooking these.
Thank you.
Thank you.